Well, welcome to the live stream. Hi, my name's Andy, and I'm just getting into the whole streaming side of things. See how it goes. But for the most part, I just wanted to come in and start painting up my Primarchs. So, done a few, including Horus is an older model, and been just watching other people do their thing and making my move into doing this stuff. So here's my Lorgar that I recently did. It's a lot of fun to paint. I tend to magnetize everything I do so that I can pull them out should I ever want to play with them. And then soon I'm going to release my Vulcan photo on Instagram, just so everybody can see that, inspired by Eric Swinson, awesome painter. Got a little bit left to do, add some transfers. But for today, I'm going to be working on Angron. Now, I tend to go looking for inspiration in different places, and one of those places is Instagram. So I spent quite a while looking for a style that I liked, because Angron is primarily red and gold, and wanted to find something a little bit more interesting. So one of the guys that I found, who I follow on Instagram, whose stuff I love, is Warp Storm painting. And so he did this really cool setup with a blue and white and then kind of a bronzish gold. So I just really like this paint scheme, even though it doesn't quite match the historical information online for Angron and his armor. But painting a solid color isn't very fun. So I've decided to kind of take his model as inspiration, and here's a picture of his latest dreadnought that he did for the same army. So Warp Storm painting, pretty awesome. Has a Patreon. I think it's Warp Color. I'll put the link in the bio somewhere. But this is taking this as kind of an inspiration for what I'm going to be doing today. So for the start, I always just kind of prime black, and then I come in and do a little bit of a gray, and then a white in my more the area that I want to focus on more. So depending on what I'm thinking of painting as my main color, I'll adjust. But so my thoughts are going to be to have the blue on the shoulder pads, and then I'm thinking of doing white on the thighs and on the back of the calves, kind of reverse of what Warp Storm had, just because it's such an interesting area to have brighter. But I may change my mind and just do the leg the same. So I'm going to start with some of the smaller color sections and see where it ends up. I always tend to start in more of my mid-tone area than with the darkest level I'm going to do. So I'm a big fan of the Vallejo colors. I use a lot of different paint colors, but I've come to really enjoy the Vallejo stuff over the years. But I'll mix and match a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of block in some of my colors for now, and then I'll come back and add in a little bit of definition. I find it easier to glaze down into my into my dark colors than to glaze up into my lighter colors with stuff like this. So that would be why I'm gonna start in here. Usually I would use an airbrush for something like this. It would be a little bit quicker in the grand scheme of things to get a very nice blue tone, but I'm challenging myself these days with my non-metallic metal to I enjoy doing non-metallic metal by hand, and there's definitely some ways that I could speed up this process. But the point is to enjoy yourself, and I really enjoy doing the brush non-metallic. Part of this whole process is having had a lot of the Primarchs for a while and never painted any of them. As I've had a lot of free time during for those that don't know, I work in film and television. And with the strikes ongoing, there's not a whole lot else to do while we wait for the work to come back. And so I've spent a lot of time just focusing on getting better at painting. So I'm going to be adjusting my camera here and there to try to figure out the best angle for you watching. Part of this process as well is just kind of getting some detail on the model, figuring out where I want what colors. Since I'm kind of making it up from scratch, I'm not really going for a specific well-known scheme. Let's see. The usual main scheme that you see, Angron, is just gold with some red bronzish feel. And while I enjoy painting gold among other things, after a while you get kind of tired of just painting the same color. So I'm going to just kind of wet blend in a little bit. Some here I'm using deep sky blue from Vallejo. I love these Primarch models. They're just really fun to put together. It's kind of nice to have the epic heroes out. Haven't played much Heresy stuff. It's primarily been played in regular Warhammer. Now that the new edition's coming out, maybe we'll see a little changeover where I'll go attempt to play some kill team. With the film industry stuff, you don't end up having a lot of time to dedicate to that kind of stuff, so you end up watching other people play, or so I'm gonna choose a different area to highlight here. One of the things I've learned from watching other guys is making sure that if you're doing one of these action pieces, not to have each side be exactly the same. So I'm gonna give them a little bit more of a highlight in this area, and then give them a darker area here and a highlight up in here, rather than doing center and center. Atlanta Astro, is that you, Sam? Oh, hey, Aston. It's hard to tell when you're looking at the YouTube mix to see who it is, especially if you don't know and people have different names and stuff. You know, like mine started as Ghostbox Entertainment, but that's not my name. Well, thanks for coming out. You're the first person to watch me paint live on YouTube, so congratulations. You're a sucker for tuning in. You know anything about Warhammer? Yeah, this is Angron. He's the leader of one of the armies. I don't know if you're super into it. There's a lot of really cool fluff and lore in the background. Lots of books and stuff if you're into sci-fi books. And they write all kinds of cool information about him for those that don't know. This guy was a slave on a planet and was found, per se, rescued, and all of his gladiator slave family members, that was one of his deals for joining the big army in the sky, was to bring all of his people with him, and he was told yes, and then they weren't brought. So he's just basically a really angry dude. Turns into a big demon thing later in his life. So yeah, risk chess, kind of the same concept. I mean, you just kind of decide what you want your. There's a bunch of different armies to choose from, and then there's even multiple editions of it where you can, you know, same way that you could play war games that have historical information. You know, you could go World War I, World War II, Civil War, that kind of stuff. It's the same thing with Warhammer. You can play like a kind of a retro version that's just humans on humans, and then you can play another version that's far in the future where it's there's aliens that you can choose from. Tons of lore, so many books, and the books are really good too. Um, I've read quite a lot of them. It's a little daunting sometimes when you kind of start digging to how many books there are, but I mean, they even have fantasy stuff that's available as well. So they've started doing like crime noir and comedy stuff. There's like a whole bunch of different genres and styles that they do within the same universe, which is super cool. I'm a fan of the crime noir stuff that's a little bit newer. Yeah, I mean, it's the crime noir stuff isn't like super original. Um, you know, some of the stories you can go, oh, I've seen that movie, but it's all set within the Warhammer universe, and so there's so much rich history there. There's even a horror. I can't ever say that word. Horror series that is a lot more like about creepy Cthulhu style monsters and can't remember the name of the guy that wrote the horror series, but it's pretty fun. I mean, it's a little hard to read at times, um, just because it like there's it's really in depth, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, this is basically the leader of a group um, that betrays everybody. They join a different. They basically succumb to their rage, and they end up turning into monsters. The army that he's a part of is called the World Eaters, and all of the guys that serve in his army were. Um, he's genetically modified. They're genetically modified to kind of match him, and because of story stuff, he doesn't want to have anything to do with them, and he has these weird things put in his head. Oh, dude, Warhammer's just crazy. It's unless something's changed, I believe Warhammer's the most widely played tabletop game in the world. Like it's played on every continent, which is cool. Oh yeah, I mean, and there's a bunch of cool different aliens. Um, I'll be painting random stuff. I've been painting and decided it was like, well, might as well start streaming when I'm painting because like I paint all kinds of stuff. I paint like just straight up busts. Um, Different friends have hired me to paint different things for them. Like I had a buddy last night asked me to find models of the band the Gorillas, But yeah, if you want, you know, you can, I don't know if you have my number, but you can text me if you have my number. If you don't, you can Instagram me. My Instagram is Andy Lorenz, and I can send you a good starting place for Warhammer books if you're interested. But yeah, the problem with doing the gorillas is finding the files. So it's like I have 3D printing capabilities here at home. Um, like so a friend of mine wanted a Mandalorian bust, and so I was able to 3D print and paint him this thing. But so I've started doing random things for that kind of, you know, just because it can get boring sometimes painting the same thing over and over again. But the time it takes to find the files just kind of eats into you after a while. It's like you'd much rather be doing the fun part, which is painting. Yeah, please do. I mean, Warhammer's cool too. It is a little bit of an investment, and since we haven't been working, um, it's not the greatest investment. So I'm gonna. I had a bunch of stuff. I print some stuff, so I like the design that the Warhammer company they just do really good sculpts. They do all kinds of crazy stuff um, within fantasy as well as the sci-fi realm, and so the stuff that I print is mainly things that like I can't find anywhere else that somebody did a 3D sculpt of. So I don't do anything for the armies. I don't care if other people do whatever. Um, I primarily have been 3D printing like comic book stuff and superhero stuff. Um, an example of something you saw the Mandalorian. I thought it'd be fun to do some little zombie heads just because you can do really funny weird stuff with them, and they've got a little hole to put a magnet in, and you can paint something like this up really fast. It's not a You don't have to dedicate yourself hours upon hours upon hours. But for the most part, it's like painting busts and things that you just can't find anywhere else. That's been my ever since the shutdown, ever since the COVID shutdown. That was kind of like the little side hobby was 3D printing collectibles and painting them to put on my wall. So if I can, I did a little bit of searching last night for the Gorillas band to see if anybody. I figured somebody had done STLs for them, and sure enough, I found a couple within like 10 minutes of looking. So I'll probably find a way to do it. And he didn't want like full body poses. He just wanted like their heads coming out of a picture frame. So if the STLs aren't too expensive, I may buy them so that I can paint them up for him, because get a little commission going. Yeah, it's kind of a cool concept that people have been jumping out at. Like I printed a couple of these zombie heads and figured I would paint them, put them in a frame, and then if I, feel like it, open a little Etsy store and sell them. You know, it was sounds good, bud. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, it's interesting in the film industry. Uh, a lot of people are into Dungeons and Dragons, which is fun. But it's also interesting to see how many people are actually into different wargaming systems, or maybe not even wargaming, but um, they'll buy kits like Zombicide or um, Zombicide. Let's see, what are some of the other ones people play? Um, my painting coach, Aaron Lovejoy, shout out to him. He does Shadows of Brimstone, which seems like a pretty awesome game. I haven't actually played it at all, but he does all the models and does a fantastic job on them. I've enjoyed seeing him come out with stuff ever so often. Just his paint jobs for that, along with they got Star Wars stuff. Star Wars games, awesome. I haven't looked into the newest one just because, as we've said, with no film industry work, it doesn't make a lot of sense for those of us that are waiting for our work to come back to invest in another gaming system when we have Warhammer. Wish I had some music that could be playing. Thought about listening to Rugby World Cup games because that's my kind of jam. I was just watching the Japan Samoa game. It was pretty fantastic. It was from last week. I've tried to stretch them out so that I don't run out of things to watch. Big fan of rugby. Heartbroken because Atlanta's rugby team is moving to LA. They got bought out after the owner died, passed away, and so Atlanta no longer has a major league rugby team, which is severely disappointing. That was one of my big social things that I have been doing is inviting people to go to watch Atlanta's team play. Very disappointing. Wonder how much it costs to get permits to play music on YouTube when you're working. You know, watch other people paint and they have this great music going. Seems like a bit of an investment. So it's a little, it'll be misleading being that I'm painting gray on a gray model for the time being, but once I start blocking in some of the other colors, it'll really start to pop out a little bit more. I guess I could record myself making music on the channel. Just loop it. I think it would drive people insane. It would drive me insane. Really hoping that since Henry Cavill hopped in with Amazon, or at least helped them get the rights to make some Warhammer material, that whatever they do isn't going to be awful. some of their other shows leave a lot to be desired in terms of what I look for in an entertaining show. I'm going to use a little whole red. Or I'm going to use whole red as kind of my base color for the bronzish armor. I'll add a little bit black. I like Master Paint Series Dragon Black, as recommended by my painting coach Aaron Lovejoy. Pimping him out, one of the coolest dudes. He told me this is the blackest black he's found. So, granted, he's not experimenting and trying to find too many crazy colors of black. So maybe when I block this in, it'll start to feel a little bit more, it'll make sense. Yeah, I would really like a really good Warhammer show. I really hope that they don't decide to go too big too soon. I hope they keep it smaller and condensed rather than jumping into a great story for anybody that shows up and wants to hear more. There's so much to choose from, but chances are they'll choose something like the Eisenhorn book series, which is a fantastic book series. Dan Abnett, who's kind of the head of all their creative writing stuff, is just fantastic. I would prefer they choose something like the Gaunt Ghost series, but that would require a lot as well. Find it interesting. Curious to see what they do Warhammer wise with bringing out new Primarchs and where they go with that, because they brought out quite a few of trader Primarchs for 40k, which is cool. And they've started to bring out a few for the Horus Heresy. I mean, they have most of the ones from the Horus Heresy out now, which is what I'm painting. But I'm curious if they're going to bring out an equal amount of loyalist Primarchs to trader ones. It sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook for anybody that doesn't know anything about Warhammer, which is fine. You don't have to know things about Warhammer. That's what's great about it, is if a show comes out, you'll be completely green to the material and can have something brand new to get into. It's kind of nice that One Piece got really popular and that they did this show. I mean, it was already popular for those of us that like the anime, but the Netflix version has really broadened its audience, and it was a pretty enjoyable show. Needed something interesting that was more long form coming out. There's not a lot of it these days, you know. There's a lot of shows, but when it comes to like strange, you know, I'm always saddened by the fact that we don't have more of like the Fifth Element style storytelling out, like the Fifth Element show. I forget if the Fifth Element show, I think they originally wanted it to be a TV show. And rather than do a TV show, they made a movie. Hmm. Let's see. I don't have anything interesting to say. Da da da. I wish I did, but I don't. I'm really excited for Rugby World Cup going on right now. Ireland's my team. There's a lot of teams I enjoy watching. Since the U.S. didn't make it in, Ireland's my jam. I've been a fan since college, when my club rugby coach, who was from Ireland, showed me games and taught me rugby by explaining what they were doing. And ever since then, I've enjoyed the philosophy that Ireland has when it comes to play. I do enjoy watching South Africa play. I enjoy watching Australia play. It'd be nice to have somebody new win. I'm gunning for Ireland. Teams I don't like would be Argentina. That's probably the only team I don't like. It's just something about the way they play and some of the attitudes that pop out during play sometimes. Every team's going to have the potential of somebody that you don't like their personality. There's always going to be guys that do jerk things on teams. But they're a team that I'm not a fan of. Recently watched Extraction 2. I rewatched the first one and watched the second one because I hadn't had Netflix in a while. I don't like keeping subscriptions open for a really long period of time when I'm not watching them, and when we're working. So opened it up again so that I could have something new to watch, because I've kind of worn out some of the other channels, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really happy that they've been doing the Extraction movies. They're different. You know, there's not a ton of depth to them. I mean, there's enough character development that you can be interested in the different people that are in the movie. It's kind of like a harkening back to the old action movies. It was good. Okay. So let's see. Start deviating into my goldish colors. So I really like Flat Earth by Vallejo. It's a really awesome color. Add a little bit of whole red to it. Not a lot. I don't have super deep philosophy when it comes to the non-metallic style. I have taken a lot of classes. Recently took one with Eric Swinson. That was a really great class. Took me out of my comfort zone, which was awesome. Worked a lot on it with Aaron Lovejoy. Yeah, I'm going to pimp him out all stream. Awesome dude. Awesome painting coach. I've seen my stuff get a lot better since I started taking class with him. But I love seeing people's different takes on how they do it. I'm not a huge fan of glazing, but I've been forcing myself to get better at it. There's some people that are just super talented when it comes to that stuff. I'm a little messier with it than a lot of people. I think mainly because I know I'm not competing for any contests. I'm just kind of enjoying myself. I think it also allows me some freedom to not be too concerned, since I don't really compete anywhere. Can kind of just play around, and yeah, I don't know. It'd be fun to compete, but like some of these people that compete, their talent is just, they're just ridiculously good. It'd be very difficult for me to get to the point where I'd want to show up with something I've painted to one of these contests. It's just, they do. I mean, you know, you got my painting coach, Aaron, is awesome. You got Eric Swinson. You got the guys from Cult of Paint. You know, you have people like NRM, who is another one that I do a Patreon with. It's just awesome stuff. I'm going to come back in later and add in a little more white on some of these areas, but for now I'm bouncing over to working on the bronzish gold. So after that little bit of whole red with flat earth, I'm just going to go straight flat earth now and bring in some more tones. This is always harder to me when you get down to these little fiddly details. So I could probably actually call this pretty good on a lot of this armor stuff until I get my extreme highlights, because a lot of it's in the shadows. But I may do one more pass with one lighter color and then go to my kind of more extreme highlights. That's what I love about the non-metallic metal thing, is like there's so many ways that you can just choose to be a little bit more I lost my word. You know, a lot of the non-metallic stuff, and this is something watching people, is you can get away with quite a bit once you've blocked in a couple of colors. You can bring in some highlights and it'll actually look pretty cool and feel kind of desaturated in the shadows, or maybe not desaturated, but oh, there we go. There's an area I forgot. So I'm going to go back to my whole red flat earth color, bump it up a little bit here. Let's see. So I'm bringing my sun kind of from this side. So with the first couple, I tend to not really be too careful, other than I try not to fill in too many there we go. So much more fun when other people are on the chat with you and talking to you. Thanks everybody who watched, which might have been one person. Hadn't planned on doing super long streams because people get worn out by it. I will probably randomly be on. Which is totally fine. I'm totally fine having one person pop in and talk to me. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe every day when I'm bored. Thanks again for coming out.